Hello guys, before the video starts, if you go to my bio and click on the Spence Designs link, that is our store which contains something for everyone. Our store has very motivational and inspiring products like clothing for adults, children, and pets, puzzles, mats for your home, blankets, hats, notebooks, mugs and cups, etc. Our aim is to keep everyone thinking positive, so why not display the positivity? What's good YouTube? It's your boy Nafis back with another video. Follow me on YouTube at SpenceSpeaks_. Follow me on Instagram at SpenceSpeaks_. And follow me on TikTok at SpenceSpeaks. Today I just wanted to give a testimony that I believe that would help give you guys peace in your spirit, and it'll also help you to identify the Father a little bit better in your life, because there may be a lot of instances in your life where the Father has been trying to communicate something to you, but you can't see what He's trying to say to you or see that He's there because of the situation that you're faced with. A lot of times we think when we're going through bad situations or something that makes us uncomfortable, we can't see that the Father actually is there. And He has been there a lot in your life, but you just can't see Him. So I believe that this testimony will help you guys open your spiritual eyes a little bit more to see that He's right there in front of you. He's right there with you. So, this testimony might sound a little different, a little crazy to y'all, but just hear me out, because it really did help giving me understanding. So, growing up, I grew up with my grandparents. I was adopted to my grandparents. As I'm being raised up with my grandparents, my grandfather would drink a lot. He was an alcoholic. He would come home, a lot of nights and, be babbling a lot of things and, terrorizing the house, and my mom, my grandma arguing. He fussing with me, we tussling a little bit, and, it just got to a point where he would ask me questions, or he would ask me or put me in certain situations where some instances he would sit me down and he would say, who am I? Sometimes I would answer my grandfather. He would say nope, and then he would pop me. So I'm just sitting there, and then he would say again, who am I? I say my dad. Nope. Then he would pop me again. So in my head, I don't know what he want me to say. All I know he keep asking me these questions, or this same question, and expecting a certain answer, but the answers that I'm given is not it. So then there will be other instances where, he would say, stand up. So I stand up. Then he would say, sit down. So I sit down. He say, stand up. So I stand up. He say, sit down. So I sit down. Eventually, I'm like, why do you keep asking me to stand up and sit down? He would pop me, like, don't ask me no questions. Just do what I tell you to do. Yes, sir. He passed away in 2005. So from 2005, I want to say up until 2014 was when a similar situation came about the same way. So my grandfather, he passes away in 2005. So fast forwarding all the way to 2014, once I started pretty much started my spiritual walk, like really seeking the Father more, really wanting to get closer to Him, really wanting to know if He's real. It came to a point where I ran into this prophet, and he prophesied a few things in my life and things like that. We started talking more on the phone, getting closer, and there was one day where he was talking to me, and out of nowhere he says, who am I? I'm saying, a man of God. He's like, nope. And he says, who am I? I said, my brother in Christ. He's like, nope. Who am I? I didn't know the answer. I couldn't figure it out. So then, after not completing what he started when he was asking me the questions, or never really giving me the answer as to what he was asking me, he says, stand up. So I stand up. He says, sit down. So I sit down. He says, stand up. So I stand up. He says, sit down. So I sit down. And then when I'm sitting there, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, my dad, he used to do the same thing. And I just started crying. Because when he was doing it, he was looking just like my dad when he was doing it. But I grew up in Philly, right? This 9 years go by. By this time, I'm in Florida. Him and my father have no correlation, don't know each other, don't know family, nothing is tying them two together. So I'm like, what is going on? How he doing exactly what my dad did? So when I was crying, he like, what's wrong? I'm like, man, my dad, he used to do the same thing to me the same way, the same two situations. Like, it was like back to back. It was nothing in between. The first time he said, who am I? Then right after that, he was saying, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. So I'm like, what? So anyway, mind you, when my dad was doing it, he never gave me the answers to anything that he was telling me. To the day he died, he never told me. So I was just left with that. So then when this prophet was doing it, I'm like, how is he doing that, right? So he never told me what the answers was or nothing. He never revealed anything to me. So, fast forwarding, me no longer being around him this present day, probably since like 5-6 years ago, I've been testifying and sharing, my testimony with different people, sharing different things that I've been through with getting closer to the Father and things like that. And one day I was telling my testimony to somebody, I don't remember who it was, but I came to a realization that the Father was trying to speak to me the whole time. So like, our relationship with the Father is personal. And I'm not trying to say that like everybody is essentially like a robot to you, but everybody that you know, everybody that you meet, everything that you see, everything that you hear, everything that you experience in this life is for you. As far as, as it pertains to your relationship between you and the Father. So there's a learning, there's something that you can be taught in everything that you go through that's helping you to understand you more and who the Father has called you to be. So when I was telling my testimony to this person, I'm like, wait a minute. So the word talks about, not looking at the faces of men and stuff like that. And, telling us we don't fight against flesh and blood, but, spirits and principalities and wickedness in high places. And spiritual wickedness in high places. So I started thinking about the spirit. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, if you think about it, it's either one of two things going. Either you're obeying the Father and what He's telling you to do, or you're obeying the devil and what he's trying to tell you to do. So in that instance of, the back when I was with my father and the physical abuse that was happening, but when he was asking me, who am I felt like it sounds confusing, but as I'm going through that, when he was asking me who am I, it wasn't necessarily my biological father or my father-in-law or my grandfather asking me who am I. It was the Father trying to minister to my spirit for me to look past him and see the Father in all situations. So it's like, who am I? Because as my father, as my biological father, as my grandfather, as my father on this earth, he's trying to teach me a certain obedience. But as a parent, the obedience that they teach their child is supposed to be in correlation with how that child is supposed to obey the Father once they get old enough to understand. So once I was getting old enough to understand, I realized that it was the Spirit of the Father using that situation to say, who am I? I need you to see me in the midst of everything. So even though this seems like a torturous situation, you still need to see me. You still need to see that I'm here. You still need to see that I'm available to you. You still need to see that I can talk to you. I can communicate with you. So hear me, listen to me, see me. Don't keep on looking at these situations and giving those situations so much power, because you don't have to. You keep looking at these situations like, oh, I'm just getting abused and oh, I'm just so hurt. But, once I got older and then running into this prophet, and then he did the same exact thing, And as we went on our spiritual walk, there was a lot of negative things that was going on, but I was able to see things in the spirit more clear because I wasn't focusing on the physical harm or the what you see in the natural, because a lot of that is just distraction from what the spirit is actually trying to tell you. So you can't allow the things that happen in this natural world distract what's going on in the spirit, because you got to also understand this: you can't control anybody else. You can only control you and what you do. So let's say, you trying your best to be, the most set apart or holiest person that you can be. A lot of times when you're doing that, other people will attack you physically, mentally. They're going to attack you, and you're trying your best to prevent them from attacking you or control them from attacking you, but you can't. You can only do what you can do. You can't control another person. Like, it's almost like you have to have such an obedience to the Father where no matter what's going on, life or death, I will obey the Father. That's the kind of confidence that we need to have in the Father. So when it comes to, you going through your everyday, don't just look at people as people, like just for what they're telling you they are and who they are. You really got to look at them and try to get a read on, is this person's spirit being used by the Father right now, or is this person's spirit being used by the devil right now? If that person's spirit is being used by the devil, then you got to remove yourself. If it's being used by the Father, then you sit and listen to him. It's like the same instance, Peter, he was a disciple of, Jesus. So if Peter, being a disciple of Jesus, was saying to Jesus, they won't hurt you. They're not going to crucify you. They're not going to do these things. I won't deny you. You know what I'm saying? He said that to him. He said, the Father said, you're going to deny me. And then Peter said, no, I would never do that. And then Jesus responds with, get thee behind me, Satan. So that was letting Peter know that you're obeying the spirit of Satan right now. You think that because I'm going through this bad situation that I'm not supposed to. So that's leading into another thing. As you grow in the Father, don't think that you're not going to go through things that seem bad. And I say seem bad because all things work together for the good of them that love the Father and are called according to his purpose. You have to go through bad in order to see what you need to see. Like, you have to go through the bad in order to get the right understanding of how to overcome, how to endure. The word talks about he that endures until the end. Because this life is not supposed to be you getting closer to the Father to avoid all things in all situations. That's not why you get closer to the Father. Because life isn't about here and now and on this earth. Life is about eternity. Think about it. If you die in the most traumatic way on earth, do you really think you're going to care how you died if you make it into heaven forever? No, you're not going to care. But you are going to care if you're doing everything right that you feel in your spirit that the Father's telling you to do. And then let's say somebody come to you with a gun and they put a gun to you and they say, I want you to do this wrong deed, and if you don't, I'm going to kill you right now. Most people right now, they'll say, I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do. I'm not ready to die. But you doing it is going to send you to hell anyway. So you being in righteousness, and like I said, you can't control other people. All you can do is control you. So that might be the situation that the Father already had set for your end. So that person putting a gun to your head and saying, I need you to do this wrong deed, and if you don't, you're going to have to kill me. Then you just going to have to be prepared. You're going to have to be prepared to go. That's the obedience that you're supposed to have to the Father. People say, well, why? I don't want to die. The Father sent the Son and the Son died. You're no greater than him. He said we're going to be persecuted because he was first persecuted. He was the example before. So you got to understand, coming into this walk, you don't come into this walk for the peace that you think. You come into this walk for the peace of eternity, loving the Father because he first loved you. And just understand that when you going through that torment or whatever situation that you're going through, there is a peace that the Father will give you as long as you're in him. As long as you're growing with him, he's giving you the understanding because he's putting you through that situation for a certain reason. It might not just be for you, it might be for somebody else watching you. So you just got to be willing to do whatever the Father is asking you to do. I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's not easy. Even when, the Father was going to be crucified, he said, let this cup pass me by. But nonetheless, let your will be done. Obedience over sacrifice. He said, I don't want to do this, but your will over anything that I want. Your will over anything that I want. Whatever you need me to do, Father, I'm available. And that's hard to do. At the time when I was with my father, I was young. I didn't have the understanding, but that situation when I was young had to happen for the later understanding now. Because if that didn't happen then, I probably wouldn't have the understanding now. So a lot of times, even then when you're going through situations, you might not understand it right there. Don't get frustrated. Just go through it and try to have your spiritual senses open to receive whatever the Father needs you to receive in that situation. And just keep praying. Keep praying while you're going through it. Keep praying while you're going through it. If the Father tell you to stay there, stay there. If the Father tell you to go, go. But you got to continue to pray about everything. Pray about everything. Let him lead and guide you. Let him direct your path. And everything will be good. So I don't want y'all to think that, I was telling that testimony as like a moment, feel, sympathy for my situation, because I'm grateful for it. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the butt whoopings. I appreciate all the teachings. Some teachings are different, but you got to understand the Father says he'll never put more on you than you can bear. So everything that anybody is going through, you're going through it because you can bear it, and you're also going through it not just for yourself, but for other people who are going through similar situations. We're stronger than we think that we are. We can handle more than we think that we can handle. And you're not the judge that determines how much you can handle. The Father is. And you have to know that. You can sit here and say to yourself, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with this. Trying to convince yourself that you can't deal with it. But the Father already said he'll never put more on you than you can bear. And the devil can't do anything to you unless the Father allows him to. Just think about it. You're still here. If you're watching this video, you're still here. You've been through a whole lot in your life. And you still right here. It's a reason for that. It's a teaching in that. So just think back on it. Pray about those stuff that you've been through back then. Pray about it. And see what the Father has been trying to tell you. See what the Father has been trying to show you about yourself. Because he's trying to raise us up. He's trying to raise us up, especially if you're willing. Because you could be willing and not really have the full understanding, which causes confusion. But the Father is there trying to remove that confusion. So he sends people, he sends messages, he sends videos, he sends all kind of things for you to be able to determine, what is right and what is helping you to grow to understand yourself. It's all here for you. This life, everything is here for you. Everything you hear, everything you see, everything you're doing is here for you, specifically. You, everything you're hearing, you gotta be able to determine what is what. Because even when something is trying to deceive you, that's teaching you something. And even when something is leading you into righteousness, it's teaching you something. So you still need both to understand. Whether you're watching somebody else's experience or you're going through your own experience, it's still teaching you. You're still here. You're still breathing. There's a reason for that. If you was really that bad and really that sinful and really going that far left the wrong way, I'm pretty sure the Father would have took you out by now. But if you are seeking him and you're just in situations where you're confused a little bit, the Father knows that you're confused. He knows that you're going to run into situations where you hear voices like mine or somebody else who's encouraging, somebody else who's giving the word, somebody else who's giving wisdom to help teach you, to help lead you, to help guide you. It's not necessarily us or me speaking, but it's the Father using our spirit specifically for you. So this whole message that I'm giving is trying to tell people, focus on the spirit. Don't keep looking at the faces of people, the faces of men or me. Really try to tap in and see what the Father is saying through me specifically for you. Like what he's saying through me specifically for you. Using my vessel to minister something directly to you. The same thing with you. He'll use your vessel to minister something directly to somebody else. But you have to grow to start to learn and understand that. He's trying to use you, He uses other people for you so that he can teach you to know when he is using you. So when the time comes, you're doing what he's telling you to do. Because there's a lot going on. We're supposed to know the voice of our Father, but we don't know the voice of our Father because we have a lot of people out here giving the wrong teachings, and sometimes those wrong teachings sound right, so you end up following it. And I'm here to say, don't follow those wrong teachings, but follow the spirit of the teachings. So you got to know the spirit. You got to pray about a lot of stuff. You hear something, you pray about it. You hear something, you pray about it. Pray about everything. Don't just try to, I got that, I understand that, because sometimes things sound the same as something else that you understood, and you might think that it's the same thing, but if you pray about it, it might be something completely different. You have to allow the Father to lead and guide and direct your whole path, everything. And there is a way, and that's through prayer. So just keep praying. I know y'all hear me in my videos all the time just saying pray, 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 because again, it's not about what I'm saying or me getting credit for what I'm saying. It's about people leading you to understand that you can do it too. You can pray too. You can hear from the Father too. So just let him do it for you, because he wants to. He loves you. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want you to be confused. He doesn't want you to be manipulated by people who are close to you that love you and have a genuine heart. They real close to you, mom, dad, brother. You know, they have a genuine heart and they're giving you the knowledge that they strongly believe is right. But it doesn't always mean that it's right. You're going to hear me repeat a lot of stuff. It does not always mean that it's right. It sounds good and you want to lean on it so much because you love him so much. But just know that the Spirit of the Father is always 100% correct. Always. Pray about everything. Anything in this video that you heard, pray about it. I don't care how right it sounds. Pray about it. Let the Father guide the information that you need to hold on to for your walk specifically. He got you. Trust and believe it 100%. So before this video get way too long, because I know I said a short testimony, you know, I got hyped up a little bit. I'm gonna just say I thank you for all the supporters, all the people who are following. I appreciate you. I love you. And again, I'm saying it again, I'm just trying my best to be a help to whoever is hearing the voice of the Father. Whoever is so willing to hear the voice of the Father. I'm just trying to be a willing vessel used by him to help. And I know the best way to reach the world is through the internet. So I'm not really pushing because I don't want to feel prideful about pushing a certain way. I just, whoever the video reaches, it reaches. That's why I say if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I do believe that whoever is hearing this video is for a reason. It's definitely for a reason. And I just pray that you pray about everything. Pray about everything and look at everything in the Spirit. Look at everything in the Spirit. It's either going to be the Father talking to you or the devil talking to you. So even in this video, you need to pray about it to understand and know, is this the Father talking to me or is this the devil speaking to me? You got to pray about it. It's all about you. This life is all about you and your relationship with the Father. This whole life is all about you and your relationship with the Father. You and your relationship. When you stand before the Father, it's just going to be you. Nobody else. You and the Father. What did you do? You can't put your finger on nobody else. It's going to be, what did you do? Did you pray? Did you fast? Did you study? Did you do your part? Did you get close to me? Did you get as close to me as you could have? Could you have done more? Do all that you can do. And a lot of all that you can do is just keep praying. He'll answer you, trust. He will answer you. He will definitely lead and guide you. He will not leave you hanging. Pray. Pray. So I just thank y'all, man. I love y'all. I pray that y'all all stay encouraged and know that everything gonna be alright. And if you're going through a bad situation, there could be a reason for that. Pray about it. The Father got you. He will change your perspective. If you're feeling depressed or sad or something like that, just know that he said he'll never put more on you than you can bear. He'll never do it. He said he'll never put more on you than you can bear. So if you're in a bad situation and you feel sad in your spirit, you can find peace in prayer. Because the Father will show you why you're going through that situation and what you need to understand about it. Keep praying, y'all. Just keep praying. The Father love y'all. Be blessed.